dressed as a spare tire in a love SA1 you bastard. The old man Ye was full of anger, pointed at Yeyu and yelled, you have lost all the face of our Ye family. You are shameless, I want this old face. It's shameless. The whole family of the Ye family was sitting in the living room, listening to the old man Ye scolding Yeyu. Except for Yeyu himself, who was expressionless the whole time, everyone else's faces were more or less watching a good show and gloating. And these people watching the play were Yeyu's second uncle and second aunt, as well as his two cousins. And Yeyu's parents and brother didn't live in this house, so Mr. Ye scolded for a long time, but no one spoke out to defend Yeyu. Grandpa, calm down. Ye Chen saw that the old man was tired of scolding, and after venting his anger at Yeyu, he was not as angry as before, so he poured a cup of tea and put it in front of the old man and said, actually, it's not a big deal, don't get mad at your body. Don't say good things for him. Old Ye glared at Yeyu and said, he's disgraced my face. If I don't let him know how bad it is, he won't know what more shameful things he will do in the future. Listen to me, all of you. Elder Ye looked at the others and said, you are not allowed to give him food or drink for the past 2 days. If I find anyone who dares to disobey me, I will break his legs. Yes. The others replied immediately. Ye Chen opened his mouth, but in the end he didn't say anything. He looked at Yeyu with an embarrassed expression, as if he wanted to persuade but didn't dare to persuade any more. Yeyu's heart was as calm as his expression. Even when he was killed on the plane, after confirming that he had crossed into a world in a book, he was not too shocked or unacceptable. Such a small scene now, there was nothing to stir in his heart. Yeyu turned his head to look at Ye Chen, the eyes of the two happened to meet each other. Although Yeyu's eyes were calm and without any emotion, Ye Chen still felt very uncomfortable because they met his eyes. Guilty, he involuntarily turned his eyes away and lowered his head slightly. Old Ye cursed for too long and made him thirsty. After drinking half a cup of tea, he continued to say to Yeyu, I tell you, don't say that Du Hao doesn't like you at all, even if the two of you like each other, it is impossible for me to let you two together. My Ye family and their Du family do not marry or make friends. It is written in the family rules. It is absolutely impossible to break the rules set by the ancestors because of you. If you dare to do it again, if you have dealings with Du Hao, get out of this family for me, and don't have the surname Ye again from now on. My Ye family can't tolerate such a shameless descendant like you. You mean? Yeyu, who had been silent for a long time, finally said, even if they are in love, the Ye family is absolutely not allowed to marry the Du family, unless they leave this family and no longer have the surname Ye, right? That's right. Although old Master Ye didn't know why Yeyu repeated his words, he answered him decisively. Grandpa, can you really do what you say and never regret it? Yeyu asked again. Are you questioning me? Old Man Ye's face became even more ugly. Yeah, I'm actually quite skeptical, Grandpa, whether you can implement the family rules to the end. Maybe one day in the future, you will finally be moved by someone's feelings, stop sticking to the family rules, and befriend the Du family. Not sure. Yeyu's tone was still calm, and after he finished speaking, he glanced at Ye Chen. Because of Yeyu's words, Ye Chen's face was obviously difficult to look at. Okay, then I'll let you see if I can implement the family rules to the end. Old Master Ye said in a calm voice. Ye Chen glanced at his mother, and after the two made eye contact, Ye Chen's mother immediately pushed Ye Chen's father with her elbow. Dad, it's already quite late. Don't you want to go to the meeting tomorrow morning? Go to rest early, you will have time after teaching your children. Ye Chen's father, Ye Jianxian, got up and persuaded immediately after receiving the hint. Mr. Ye stood up, and Ye Jianxian followed behind him and sent him back to his room, because Mr. Ye just came back today, and he must have something to tell him privately. Let's go, let's all go back to the room to sleep, it's a big night. Ye Chen's mother sighed, then got up and went back to the room. After Ye Chen glanced at Ye Yu, he also got up and went back to the room. When they all left, Ye Yu walked over to the sofa where Mr. Ye sat just now, bent down and picked up the telephone receiver on the low table, and then pressed the number in the original owner's memory on the big raised button. Ye Yu went back to the room after the phone call. Although it was very late, he didn't plan to go to bed because he couldn't sleep. It had been 2 days since he came to this world, and apart from being a little shocked at the beginning, he quickly accepted the fact that he had passed through. In the past 2 days, relying on the original owner's memory and what he observed, he has determined that this world is the world of the book he read on the plane. But some things seemed to be different from what he had seen, which made him a little puzzled. He was sitting in a VIP room of a certain airline, which contained many fashion or financial magazines with the latest issues. He just flipped through it, but found a book that looked very old. He had no interest in this book at all, but in his heart he wanted to ignore it, but his hand involuntarily opened the book. After casually flipping a page, the first thing he saw was the same name as him, Ye Yu. So he suddenly became a little curious, and casually flipped through the contents of the book. He didn't read it very seriously, because he felt that it was just one book, and it was really not worth reading carefully. Besides, he still had the ability to read 10 lines at a glance and never forget them. He only needed to flip through it roughly to know. What is this book about? Ye Yu had just pondered for a while when he heard a slight knock on the door. He didn't need to guess, he also knew who was knocking on his door. Come in, the door is unlocked. Ye Yu responded. After the door was gently pushed open, Ye Chen walked in from the outside, and then closed the door. He was holding 2 bags in his hands, both wrapped in paper, and he couldn't see what was inside. I'm really sorry for letting you get scolded for me. Ye Chen walked in front of Ye Yu, lowered his head slightly, apologized to Ye Yu in a low voice, and then handed the 2 packets of things in his hand to Ye Yu. These 2 packages, one is beef jerky, it was brought to me from other places by my dad, I haven't eaten much yet, so I gave it to you. You can fill your stomach with this package of beef jerky in the next 2 days. Don't starve your stomach. There is also a pack of balm imported from abroad, with all kinds of fragrances, it was given to you by Brother Hao, and he said it was a thank you gift for you. Ye Yu looked at Ye Chen's face and remained silent. Are you still angry? Really sorry, Ye Chen looked so guilty and self-blame that he was speechless. Ye Yu smiled, then stretched out his hand to take the 2 bags from Ye Chen's hand. Thank you, and thank Du Hao for me. Seeing Ye Yu's calm and smiling face, Ye Chen thought he was happy because of what Du Hao gave him. The words Ye Yu said to Mr. Ye just now made Ye Chen very nervous. Ye Yu was scolded and uncomfortable, and was ready to tell the truth. Thank you for your willingness to hide it from Brother Hao for me. Brother Hao said, you have helped us a lot this time. If there is a chance, he would like to invite you to dinner. Ye Chen was still a little worried that he would tell the truth, so he wanted to use Du on purpose. Hao hangs him and asks him to keep this secret. You don't need to eat, this time I agreed to help you hide this matter, and I volunteered to be scolded on your behalf, so I deserved to be scolded and misunderstood, but... Ye Yaluo paused, then seriously looked at Ye Chen and said, this is the last time. I will accept your belongings, and we will treat them as clear. From this moment on, your affairs with Du Hao have nothing to do with me, no matter what. What will you develop in the future? Please don't implicate me in this process, otherwise, I will definitely make you regret it. Ye Chen was stunned for a moment because of Ye Yu's tone and demeanor, and he continued to say with a guilty expression, you're still angry, I'm really sorry, I'm sorry. Ye Chen kept apologizing, but even if he didn't say it, he would not implicate Ye Yu in the future, because he knew in his heart that his affairs with Du Hao could not be made public for the time being. Don't dare to promise lightly. Ye Yu could see what he was thinking at a glance. If it wasn't because of his upbringing from childhood that he couldn't do the ugly action of rolling his eyes, he would definitely roll his eyes at Ye Chen. Go out, I'm tired and want to sleep. Ye Chen regained his habitual calm expression. Okay, then you can rest well. Ye Chen turned around and turned to halfway, then looked at Ye Yu and said, for the past 2 days, please don't go out. When Grandpa's anger subsides, I will help you to intercede with him. When the time comes, you should apologize to Grandpa, and things will pass. Please help me? Let me apologize. Yeah, you deliberately made an expression that I couldn't understand what you were saying. Help people to the end and send Buddha to the west. Brother Hao and I will remember your goodness and thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Ye Chen immediately mentioned Du Hao when he saw that Ye Yu was unwilling. It seems that you didn't listen to me. Ye Yu disliked repeated nonsense. Since the other party didn't listen, he had to use actions to let them know. If he continued to provoke him, he would. What are the consequences? Ye Chen lowered his head and turned to leave. After the door was closed, Ye Yu got up and walked to the window. He looked out through the falling moonlight, and sighed deeply in his heart. Although he quickly accepted the fact that he had crossed over, it did not mean that he did not want to return to the original world. If his parents and 2 older brothers knew the news of his death, they would definitely be heartbroken. He wants to go back, very, very much, but he has no clue as to whether he can go back and how to go back. The only thing he can do now is to settle down once he came here, live a good life, and then find a way to go back, if he can only live in this world from now on, if that's the case. Ye Yu raised his head and took a deep breath. He didn't want to continue thinking, he wanted to keep a thought in his heart, a thought that he could go back. Dressed as a spare tire in a love essay too early the next morning, Ye Yu had already packed his things and waited for the original owner's brother to pick him up. Hearing the knock on the door, Ye Yu stood up and opened the door, then looked at the person outside the door and called out, "Brother! Are you all packed?" Ye Song looked at Ye Yu and asked. "Everything that should be taken away has been packed, and no need to pack up what shouldn't be taken." Ye Yu pointed sideways at the suitcase in the room. Ye Song walked in, picked up the suitcase and walked out. "Let's go." Ye Yu closed the door and followed. Ye Song drove from the house just after dawn. When he arrived, the family hadn't woken up yet, so the helper opened the door for him. When the 2 of them went down, they happened to meet Mr. Ye, who got up and was going to the restaurant for breakfast. "Grandpa." When Ye Song saw the old man yet, he stood still and greeted him. "What is this for?" Old Master Ye glanced at the suitcase in Ye Song's hand with a stern face. "I'm here to pick Ye Yu back." Ye Song replied without any expression on his face. "What? You've embarrassed our Ye family so much, and you can't stand starving you for 2 days." Old Ye looked at Ye Yu and scolded, "Since you can't stand it, don't do those shameful things. Here is the what do you want to come and stay at, and a hotel where you can leave if you want." "Grandpa, I don't know why you punished Ye Yu for starvation for 2 days, but now that he wants to go back to his house, you can't stop him, right?" Ye Song stood in front of Ye Yu and looked directly at Ye Yu. Said the old man. "I'm going to stop me." Old Master Ye said with a cold face, "It's better that he's gone, so I don't get upset, but I tell you, if you leave this time, you won't come back again. Also, in the future, if you dare to be embarrassed by using my name outside again, I will break your legs." The rest of the family also got up. Seeing that Mr. Ye was angry with Ye Yu and Ye Song early in the morning, they all stood to watch the excitement. "Grandpa, I've never done anything outside in your name." Ye Yu stood up from behind Ye Song, looked at Mr. Ye and said, "I haven't had it before, and I won't have it in the future. If you don't worry about it, if you do, you can openly sever ties with me in a newspaper, and tell everyone that anything I do in the future has nothing to do with you and this family. After I leave here today, I will not take the initiative to step into this place again. I hope you or the rest of the family will not come to us again. From today onwards, my parents, my brother, and me have nothing to do with you or this family. Let's go, brother." Yu said and walked out. Yu. Ye Chen suddenly stopped Yu, then looked at him reluctantly and said, "Are you really going to leave? Didn't you say before that you want to live here until you get married? You and Grandpa apologize, Grandpa will let you stay." Yu turned around, looked at Ye Chen and said, "Thank you for the jerky you gave me, and thank Du Hao for the bomb for me. I left those things intact in the room. After I left here, I won't hide what you've been together for again, and I won't be scolded for you again. This is the last time I say these words, you better remember." The expressions of Ye Chen and his parents changed greatly, and they looked at Old Master Ye at the same time, while Old Master Ye was stunned for a moment, then frowned at Yu. Ye Chen's parents were immediately relieved to see that Mr. Ye didn't believe Yu's words. Yu's mother Suiping looked at Yu and said angrily, "What nonsense are you talking about? What are you hiding and what are you scolding for, Ye Chen? You have done something scandalous yourself, and you still want to be on our Akin's head? You think your grandfather would believe such a stupid lie? It's unreasonable for you to talk to this family. It's the most correct way to distance yourself from them. Let's go, brother will take you home and don't set foot here in the future." Yesong took Yu's hand. "Hands out." Yu got into Yesong's car. After the car drove out of the family area, Yesong glanced at Yu in the rear-view mirror, and found that Yu's face and eyes did not show any nostalgia or reluctance for this place, so he asked, "Really decided not to come here in the future? Can you last for half a year?" Yu smiled and said, "You underestimate me too much. Even if they invite me to come, I won't come again." "Really?" Yesong was still a little skeptical. After all, no matter how he and his parents persuaded him before, Yu insisted on staying with Mr. Ye, and when he was wronged, he would rather hide and cry than go home. "Then what happened to you? Figured it out?" "I've been a lot more angry, and I've realized that no matter how good someone else's home is, it can't be better than my own. Now that I think about it, I feel that I used to be both stupid and stupid. You have to run until you are angry with others. After you go back, tell your parents that you will live at home in the future, and you will never go to the old man's place to live again. They don't know how happy they will be." Yesong felt very happy in his own heart because of Yu's words. Happy that he finally figured it out. In the past 2 days, he has learned from the original owner's memory that this world is no longer the world and time and space where he originally lived. After the last feudal dynasty of this country, the Qun dynasty, was overthrown, all the troops gathered troops to become the leader of this country. After more than 20 years of civil war, most of the country has returned to peace and stability, and now it is in a state of waste, starting to develop and introduce various existing science and technology, and is about to start the stage of modernization. That is to say, the world is in an era that is much more advanced than ancient times, but far behind than modern times. No matter what angle, Yu still hopes to return to the original world where technology is already quite advanced. He really hopes that he is just having a dream now, and he is looking forward to waking up from the dream. Ye Chen is the protagonist of the book he read on the plane, and the content of the book is mainly about the love story between Ye Chen and Du Hao. The Ye family and the ancestors of the Du family had a grievance, so the Ye family set a family rule, and the Ye family was not allowed to marry or make friends with the Du family, but the specific reason for the grievance, no one remembers. In short, because the Ye family has such family rules, after Ye Chen fell in love with Du Hao, he had to hide the secret love from his family and others. Having said that, I have to say that one of the differences between this world and Yu's original world is that in addition to men and women, there is a third gender between men and women in this world. People of gender, whose body is male, but can get pregnant. Because of this, people of third gender can marry a male. After coming to this world, Yu had a little difficulty accepting that he had transmigrated into a person of the third gender at first, but he thought about it carefully. He had lived for more than 20 years, and he had never been tempted by anyone, no matter if it was a woman. Still a man, he didn't feel anything at all. He had never thought about it before, whether he liked women or men. Suddenly, he was shocked that he didn't know the answer. Then he thought, maybe this is God's arrangement. He has always been called God's darling by his friends. He has been smooth sailing since he was a child, and he has never encountered anything that can be called bad luck. But he didn't expect that God suddenly gave him the next big game. Not only did he encounter an air crash, but he also traveled to a world in a book. And the character he crosses is an existence who is willing to be a spare tire to set off the beautiful love of others. However, the current development seems to be a little different from what he saw in the book. Ye Chen's kind personality seems to be broken. According to the original plot, it should be that Ye Chen and Du Hao secretly fell in love, and then they were exposed and made public by Ye Yu, who was jealous of Ye Chen. The two had to face the situation of being forcibly separated, but after a lot of experiences, they were finally moved. The families of both sides also touched many people around them. The leaders of the two sides personally interceded for them, and then got married. Although there are many short-term conflicts among parents after marriage, it is only a small quarrel. The two always reconcile quickly as before, and then continue to be sweet. The role of Ye Yu, while trying his best to destroy their love relationship, willingly acted as a spare tire when they had to break up and faced the biggest test. After Ye Chen married Du Hao, Ye Yu obeyed old Master Yi's arrangement and married someone he didn't love, but he didn't give up because of this. He still tried his best to frame Ye Chen and was hated by everyone. His unhappy marriage is in contrast to Ye Chen's happy marriage, which ends in tragedy. But the current development is that Ye Chen asked Ye Yu to take the blame, and then used Ye Yu to hide his love affair with Du Hao. Ye Chen and Ye Yu are both members of the art troupe. They usually live in the dormitory of the regimental headquarters. They can only go home and live in the dormitory of the troupe. Although both of them are still recruits for less than a year, Ye Chen has been given several opportunities to perform because of his outstanding performance. He is the envy of all recruits and the object of admiration of many soldiers. One night before the holiday, Ye Chen sneaked out. He and Du Hao met at the agreed place. The two secretly dated, and Ye Chen gave Du Hao something by the way. But the two were accidentally discovered by the patrolling soldiers, and then Du Hao asked Ye Chen to leave quickly, and he was taken by the patrolling soldiers for questioning. In fact, the two secretly dated, and it was not a big deal, because the two did not meet during the curfew, nor in the restricted area, and soldiers would often come out to meet their partners or family members during the rest time at night, as long as they did not violate the regulations. In fact, they are all allowed. If you are caught by a patrolling soldier, you just need to take out the certificate and let it be checked. If the rumor of two lovers dating is spread, it will be laughed at for a while at most, and it is not a big deal. But Ye Chen ran away, leaving Du Hao alone, so according to the regulations, Du Hao must be taken away and asked who he was meeting with. Dressed as a spare tire in a love SA3 rather than being taken away by soldiers, Du Hao was asked to go. After all, he is a captain, and whether it is the Du family or Du Hao's grandfather's family, he has a great background in the military. Du Hao's grandfather he and grandpa are both generals, so Du Hao was invited to the investigation department, not the interrogation department. After Du Hao was brought to the investigation office, the procedure to follow is still to go. First of all, he must explain who he was meeting with, the reason for the two meeting, and what they conveyed. Of course, Du Hao couldn't say Ye Chen's name. Before Ye Chen ran away in a hurry, he told Du Hao that he would ask Ye Yu for help, so Du Hao said that Ye Yu asked him to meet, and then sent something to he. After Ye Chen returned to the dormitory, he went to look for Ye Yu immediately, and quietly told him that Du Hao had to ask him for help with something very important. If he asked him to do this, Du Hao would be very grateful to him. Before Ye Yu could figure out what was going on, he was taken away by the soldiers for questioning. In the process of being questioned, Ye Yu tacitly admitted that he met Du Hao. When asked if the two were in a relationship, Du Hao firmly denied it and stated that he did not like Ye Yu. It was Ye Yu who was pursuing him, but he had already refused. Ye Yu was sad after hearing this, but he thought that since he recognized everything in front of him, he could only endure what Du Hao said later, thinking that as long as Du Hao could remember him well. Then the two of them were only given a verbal warning because they had a good attitude of admitting their mistakes, and they were released. There are many people who have a crush on Du Hao in the art troupe. Whether it is his own conditions or his family background, it is very attractive. So when the story spread, Ye Yu was not only mocked on purpose by some other troupe members, but also made up some words, and the more they spread, the more unpleasant they sounded. These words reached Mr. Yi's ears, so Mr. Ye was furious as soon as he got home, and yelled at Ye Yu, who had already crossed over. According to the plot that Ye Yu has read, there should be no such a process in the book, and according to his observation, Ye Chen's parents seem to have known about Ye Chen's love affair with Du Hao, not only supporting him but also deliberately helping him hide it. These are not in line with the original plot. In the original plot, after Ye Chen's parents knew about it, although they did not object to the relationship between the two, they only learned about it after the relationship between the two was revealed. Ye Chen's parents would know about Ye Chen's love affair with Du Hao in advance. There is only one possibility, that is, Ye Chen took the initiative to tell them and asked them to help cover and conceal. But why is the current development different from the plot in the book? Ye Yu immediately had several answers in his mind, but it would take time to verify which one is correct. You're home, come in, your parents are waiting for you. Ye Song's voice interrupted Ye Yu's contemplation. Ye Yu opened the car door and got out of the car. He looked at the tall and gorgeous Threstere building in front of him, thinking that this Ye family was much more luxurious than the Ye family in the family area. The people who live here are good to the original owner. In this age of the world, even if you are rich, your identity as a businessman will still be looked down upon by some people. Therefore, the original owner would rather live in the military region when he is angry, just to improve his identity. Ye Jiande and Su Yun knew that Ye Yu was coming back, so they asked the kitchen to prepare Ye Yu's favorite food early in the morning. Ye Jiande didn't even take care of business matters, and just waited for him at home. Dad! Ye Yu called out looking at the figure walking back and forth in the hall. I'm back. Ye Jiande immediately turned to face Ye Yu, looked at him and asked, have you eaten breakfast? Not yet. Ye Yu just wanted to ask my mother? She saw Su Yun walking out of the kitchen, and called out Mom. Are you hungry? Mom asked the kitchen to prepare a lot of your favorite breakfasts for you. Eat more later. Seeing how you look, you have lost a lot of weight. Su Yun took Ye Yu's hand and walked to the restaurant. Several servants are bringing out the breakfast from the kitchen one after another, setting up a table full of breakfast. The whole family may have to eat 3 or 4 days to finish eating the breakfast. It's not usually like this, but because Ye Yu came back today, Su Yun didn't know how long he was going to stay at home, so as long as he liked to eat, he let the kitchen do it. Come on, eat more, it's what you like to eat. Su Yun kept putting the breakfast into a small plate and placed it in front of Ye Yu. I can't eat so much. Ye Yu looked at the breakfast in front of him and felt that if he ate all of it, he would definitely be unable to walk. Just take one bite, you don't have to eat it all. Su Yun looked at Ye Yu's face seriously and said, your face is thinner than the last time you came back. Your recruit training must be very hard, right? The training is not bad. The main thing is that we have more time to practice. We don't have as much training as medics. Ye Yu said as he chose which one to eat first. Ye Jiande and Ye Song and their son also sat down. Both of them had something to do in the morning, but because Ye Yu was coming back today, it was postponed to the afternoon. Tell Mom what you want to eat, and Mom will let the kitchen cook it for you. Su Yun kept her chopsticks in her hands and didn't eat, she just watched Ye Yu eat. I didn't eat a single bite of the roe deer meat you sent me last time, Ye Yu said. I sent someone such a big piece of meat over, but they didn't give you any food. Su Yun asked while looking at Ye Yu. They took most of them to give away, and they ate the rest. When I returned from the art troupe, not even the meat residue was left. They can be human, let's just use our meat as a favor, but they won't give you a bite. Su Yun suppressed her anger towards the family and said to Ye Yu, go home to eat whatever you want in the future. Call, Mom will have the kitchen ready for you, and send it to the art troupe directly for you. Ye Yu nodded. How many days are you going to stay at home this time? Su Yun asked. As long as I'm on vacation, I'll live at home. I won't go to that house again in the future. I've been so angry that I want to understand that nowhere is better than home. Ye Yu said. Su Yun and Su Jiande were stunned for a moment, they looked at each other, and then Su Yun suppressed her excitement and confirmed with Ye Yu, really decide not to live there again? Are you going to come home and live in the future? Ye Yu was silent for a while and then said, Ye Chen and Du Hao were secretly in love. They met quietly at night and were discovered by the patrolling soldiers, and then Ye Chen asked me to admit for him that I was meeting Du Hao. It wasn't normal, so I agreed. After returning from the holiday, my grandfather scolded me for half an hour and fined me not to eat for 2 days. Ye Chen didn't mean to tell the truth at all, and the second uncle and aunt were still watching the excitement. Cold words. When I was leaving today, I told the truth, and my grandfather only believed that Ye Chen did not believe me, so I figured it out, and I don't want to have any dealings with them in the future. Ye Yu felt that since these were all facts, there was no need to hide them from them and tell them all, so that they would know their determination to not want to interact with those people anymore. It's great that you can figure it out. You will live at home in the future, and you don't have to suffer from their idleness. Although Su Yun and Ye Jiande felt sorry for Ye Yu's anger, they were also very relieved that he finally figured it out. Although Ye Jiande and Ye Jianxian are both sons of Mr. Ye, Mr. Ye is partial to Ye Jianxian to a certain extent, and because Ye Jiande doesn't obey Mr. Ye's arrangement and insists on doing business, the relationship between father and son is very rigid and indifferent. Ye Jiande and Ye Jianxian were not born to the same mother. After all, it was only 20 or 30 years after the fall of the Qiyun dynasty. The feudal dynasty allowed 3 wives and 4 concubines. There are still 2, 3, or 4 old wives in the homes of some old officers. Later, with the marriage law, only monogamy was legally recognized, and the existence of 2 and 3 bedrooms was no longer allowed, and children born out of wedlock were not given a household registration. This situation gradually decreased, but it still could not stop some of them from being raised outside. After the old man Ye married his wife in his hometown, he kept his original wife in his hometown and married another room outside. Ye Jiande was born to his first wife. He seldom saw Mr. Ye since he was a child, and he naturally had nothing to do with Mr. Ye. Emotions, and even resentment towards him. So after he grew up, Ye wanted to control his life. Not only did he not obey, but he also specifically went against him, so the two of them were more like enemies than father and son. Ye Jianxian was born to the second wife that Mr. Ye married after he was outside, and he was brought up by Mr. Ye himself, so his father's relationship was naturally good. Before the death of the 2 old ladies, the 2 houses were completely separated. Ye Jiande originally wanted to cut off all contact with Mr. Ye and the people from the second house. But after Ye Yu met Du Hao by chance, he fell in love with Du Hao at first sight. In order to get closer to Du Hao, he insisted on staying with Mr. Ye, and insisted on joining the art troupe, just to be worthy of Du Hao in every way. No matter how Ye Jiande and his wife persuaded them, they would not listen. However, Ye Yu lived with Mr. Ye, and it was not for nothing. Ye Jiande and his wife not only paid Ye Yu a large amount of living expenses, but also often sent things over there. They did not expect all of those things to be used by Ye Yu, but Ye Yu often can't even catch a bit. The old man Ye and the people from the second room agreed to let Ye Yu live because of the large living expenses and the things that Ye Jiande and his wife often sent. Now hearing that Ye said that he would never return to live with Mr. Ye again, and that he would completely cut off contact with those people, Ye Jiande and his wife were really relieved and happy. Ye, who traveled through time, naturally wouldn't follow the plot. He didn't have any affection or interest in Du Hao at all. He felt that even if he met someone he liked one day, he would never fall in love with someone just because he liked him. You lose your dignity. Although there are still many doubts in his heart that have not been solved, these can be answered slowly. The only thing he is firm and sure about is that he will definitely live the way he wants. Regardless of whether Ye Chen and Du Hao are the protagonists of this world, he will not interfere in their affairs anymore, and they had better not come to provoke him, otherwise, don't blame him for his vicious and merciless counterattack. After all, the first flirt is cheap. Dressed as a spare tire in a love SA4 after the vacation, Ye returned to the art troupe. For Ye, it doesn't matter whether he joins the art troupe or not, but since he is in front of him, he must be the best one. When he was in the original world, he had to hide his true abilities, so that people outside would think that he could do anything, but he was best at playing and enjoying the rich young master. He and his family didn't spend much thought. But in this world, he may be able to come up with some real skills to do what he wants to do. Thinking of this, Ye suddenly felt the excitement he felt for the first time since he came to this world. It's only a little bit of excitement, but it's still something to look forward to. Before he returns to his original world, he has to live happily, in case he can't go back. Then he has to live better, so that he can be worthy of all those who love him, and also worthy of him. Because the original owner voluntarily took the blame for Ye Chen, there is not a lot of gossip about him now. Ye didn't care about the eyes of those people, or what they whispered, there was no wave in his heart. He will use his strength and ability to make all the strange eyes and gossip disappear, and become the person others look up to. The third gender, using the ancient term of this world, is called brother. The number of brothers, in ancient times, was far lower than the number of men and women, and now it is even less. There are only 17 or 8 brothers in the entire cultural and art troupe of the East Third Military Region, and there are only 6 brothers among the recruits. These 6 people have a dormitory for every 3 people. The conditions of the dormitory building are still very good. After all, the East Third Military Region ranks among the largest military regions in the country. Compared with other military regions, the overall conditions here are quite good. After Ye entered the dormitory, he took out his clothes and some things he brought from home, and put them in the locker. The other 2 people in the dormitory have also arrived. One of them is Zhao Yu, who is quite taciturn. It is very difficult to hear him take the initiative to say a word one day. The other is Ji Wen, who is not a particularly good friend with the original owner, Ye, but can usually chat. After that incident, the 2 people in the dormitory did not exclude the original owner or speak ill of the original owner, because neither of them had that kind of personality, and there was another reason because both of them knew that the original owner that night. I didn't go anywhere in the dormitory. Ji Wen put his hands on the locker, turned his head to look at Ye, who was putting things, and said, "That thing is getting worse and worse. You really don't plan to tell the truth. I've already admitted it before. If I change my mind now, even if they are willing to believe it, do you think I can avoid being punished?" Ye put the things away and closed the locker door, then walked over to the bed and sat down. When changing shoes, he was not afraid of being punished, but felt that punishment must be made more valuable. What do you think? You are willing to admit this kind of thing? Do you really think that if you do this, Du Hao will be grateful to you? If he is really grateful to you, he will not say those things. It's embarrassing for you. Ji Wen really didn't understand what the original owner Ye was doing. I may have had water in my head at the time, and it's too late to regret it now. The only thing I can do now is to wait until the right time to find a way to prove my innocence to everyone. Ye sighed and said, "So, it's not that I don't want to explain it now, but the time has not come. Don't worry, I will find a way to prove my innocence. So you still no regret? I thought it was impossible for you to know what regret is if you didn't hit your head against the south wall. Ji Wen gave him an expression that seemed hopeless. Yu smiled and said, I didn't know I had to turn back until I really hit the southern wall, and that's not worthy of sympathy. Suddenly, a deep cello sounded. Yu and Ji Wen turned their heads at the same time and looked at Zhao Yu, who was sitting by the bed and playing the piano. The piece he played was called An Yang, a piece written by a famous foreign musician who was misunderstood and wronged, in order to express the frustration and anger in his heart. Yu and Ji Wen looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. Zhao Yu doesn't like to talk, but he likes to communicate through music. He suddenly played this song, which means that Yu's current mood must be the same as that expressed in this song. The three of them will be assigned to a dormitory because they are all good at playing musical instruments. Zhao Yu is good at playing the cello, the original owner Yu is good at playing the violin, and Ji Wen is good at playing the piano and accordion. The three people in Ye Chen's dormitory are all good at dancing. And now Yu, as long as he wants, he can be very good at anything. The daily routine of the art troupe is to practice, rehearse, train, perform, and occasionally have assessments and evaluations. For recruits, the opportunity to perform is very rare. If you can get the opportunity to perform and perform well in the performance, it will have a great impact on your subsequent promotion. This time the recruits' vacation was over, and before they started practicing, a raid-style assessment came. The purpose of this surprise assessment was to select some recruits to participate in a large-scale performance a month later. In this assessment, almost all the leaders and teachers of the art troupe were there. It was obvious that the art troupe would attach great importance to this performance a month later. These leaders have just received the news, so there is this sudden assessment. The new recruits who will join the dance team later have to go through the assessment first. Ye Chen has learned dancing since he was a child. He has solid basic skills, is willing to endure hardships and has great dance talent. The leader of the dance team, Lu Hui, likes him very much, and because Lu Hui and Ye Chen his mother is a very good friend. Lu Hui is very partial to Ye Chen. As long as there is a chance to perform, she will try her best to fight for him. After Ye Chen's performance, Lu Hui smiled and looked at him with relief and nodded. The other leaders also showed satisfied expressions and exchanged glances with each other. It seemed that putting Ye Chen's name on the performance list was already a sure thing. Everyone else looked at Ye Chen with envious eyes. After all, no matter how hard he worked, he had to rely on the support of talent to do better. Ye Chen stepped aside with a humble smile on his face, took the towel handed to him by his roommate and wiped his sweat. Facing the envious eyes of everyone, he was proud and enjoyed himself. After all the people in front of Yu finished playing, Yu took the violin and saluted the leaders, then lifted the violin and started to play. The piece that Yu plays is called Night Battle. This piece is very difficult, and it not only shows the silence of the night, but also the intensity and urgency of silent battles. Might get messy. Even people who don't know music very well can hear Yula's very good, because their emotions have been mobilized, and their emotions will not deceive them. As long as their eyes are closed, scenes will even appear in their minds, sometimes tense and sometimes exciting. The further back they got, the more they felt that they were no longer a bystander, but someone who was fighting. At this moment, they were holding guns and relying on the cover of the night, ready to enter the enemy camp at any time, and then start a battle. Fierce battle. After Yu's performance, Su Jingyuan, the leader of the band, was so excited that he almost stood up and applauded. Because he thought that it was an assessment and not a formal performance, he controlled it and did not stand up, but he immediately discussed with the teacher and the leader next to him, and decided to let Yu participate in the performance immediately if he wanted to. Listening to Su Jingyuan's whispered but excited words, Lu Hui couldn't help frowning. She didn't like Yu very much, because she felt that Yu had a very bad heart, a bad character, and a lot of thoughtfulness. She was kind and considerate. Ye Chen is completely incomparable. Even though the original owner Ye Yu hadn't done anything yet, Lu Hui decided that Ye Yu was a very bad person, that is, the leader of the dance team and the leader of the recruit team this time. Chen said that Ye Yu's scheming is very serious, and he may stab him in the back at any time, so he must be careful. Lu Hui hated Ye Yu, and naturally didn't want to see him. Seeing that the leaders agreed with Su Jingyuan's words, she couldn't keep silent any longer. Leaders, I have a few words to say. After Lu Hui spoke, everyone's eyes turned to her, waiting for her to continue. What happened last time had a very bad influence on our art troupe. He only got a warning to deal with it, but made our entire art troupe embarrassed with him. I think we should also punish internally. Otherwise, how will you educate and manage other people in the future? Lu Hui said righteously and very seriously, I propose that during his recruit period, he is not allowed to participate in any performances as punishment, which is also a warning to other recruits. This kind of punishment is too much. It's not a big deal. Even the investigation department only gives a warning. Your proposal is unfair. Su Jingyuan said with great dissatisfaction, and what kind of mistakes do you make? There are rules and regulations for any degree of punishment, not just how you want to be punished. Su Jingyuan knew what Lu Hui was like. She would defend in every possible way the people she liked, but she would always target those she hated. She was a person without justice. If the members of their dance team made any mistakes, she would try her best to cover them up. If the members of their band made any mistakes, she would like to magnify it 100 times to denounce it. After Ye Yu's recruit training period is over, he will definitely join the band. As the leader of the band, Su Jingyuan naturally has to protect his own people. Moreover, he had previously thought that the original owner, Ye Yu, was not bad. He played the violin very well. The performance of Ye Yu just now made him very amazed. He felt that if Ye Yu could maintain such a state, he would be an object worthy of key cultivation. Then let me ask you, is it clearly written in the rules and regulations that anyone who has a serious negative impact on our army will be expelled from the army? People like him who are not self-respecting and have bad character are not worthy of joining the art troupe. The other members of the art troupe are ashamed of his existence. He did such a shameless thing and made all the people in the art troupe embarrassed with him. Do you still think the punishment I propose is too heavy and unjust? Is it fair or unfair for those who strictly abide by the rules and are cautious in their words and deeds? A middle-aged man like Su Jingyuan was not good at arguing with people, and the more anxious and angry he became, the more speechless he became. Facing Lu Hui's arguing, he could only blushed, but he didn't know what to do. How to refute? Seeing such a situation, Ye Yu felt the need to stand up and say something. As soon as Ye Chen saw Ye Yu walking out, he immediately became nervous, and tried his best to tell Ye Yu not to say anything with his eyes. Ye Yu turned his head and glanced at Ye Chen. Dressed as a spare tire in a Love SA5, Ye Yu felt that Ye Chen was restraining herself with strong eyes, but she just glanced at him, and then continued to walk forward. Leaders, can I say a few words? Ye Yu asked calmly and politely. Several leaders and teachers all looked at Ye Yu, and were stunned at the same time, because Ye Yu just stood there quietly, which gave people a pleasant and tranquil feeling. But what made them stunned at the same time, and couldn't help but admire, was not just his exquisite appearance, but the temperament he exuded. As far as looks are concerned, there are no bad-looking people in the art troupe, because in addition to talent, appearance is also one of the important selection criteria. These leaders and teachers have met the original owner Ye Yu before, but they are not impressed by the original owner Ye Yu. Although the original owner Ye Yu looks very good, but in the art troupe with a high average appearance, he did not gives a very deep image. In layman's terms, although the original owner Ye Yu is good looking and plays the violin very well, he is a person with a very low sense of presence. But now Ye Yu, standing in front of them so close, makes them feel instantly bright. After this time, they will never forget Yeyu's appearance. What do you have to say? Lu Hui looked at Yeyu and said loudly, if you still have a little bit of shame, you should make a public review and apologize to all the others who have been implicated by you. But you are nothing to do with anyone. It's the same, as if those scandals have nothing to do with you. It seems that I expect you to be a little bit ashamed, and I think highly of you. Leader Lu, please control your emotions and pay attention to your words. Personal insults to any soldier are not allowed. I will give you a verbal warning. If there is another next time, I will directly record the punishment. The deputy head looked at Lu Hui with a very serious expression and said. Lu Hui opened her mouth and didn't speak anymore. She was really excited just now and she couldn't choose what to say, but she was warned by the deputy head in front of so many people. This was the first time, and her face was embarrassed. Down. What do you want to say? The deputy head looked at Yeyu and asked. I have a question for team leader Lu. Yeyu turned his eyes to Lu Hui, and asked in a calm and unhurried tone, you are the recruit leader, all recruits who go out at night must register with you and take it. You can only leave the dormitory after you have an exit permit, right? Lu Hui didn't answer him, just gave him a nonsense look, but as soon as she gave this look, she thought of something, and then froze. Leader Lu, are you sure that I was the one who asked you to go out that night? Yeyu looked directly at Lu Hui, but Lu Hui didn't dare to look at him. Lu Hui's expression became unnatural for a while, and then she said, you came to register yourself, you asked me? You admitted to the investigation department that you went to meet Du Hao. Or, did you sneak out of the dormitory without your exit permit? If I didn't show the exit card, how could the guards outside the gate let me go? Yeyu smiled and said, I was worried that there were too many people going out that night. Captain Lu may have misremembered, so it's better to take the registration book. Come here and show the leaders a look. You admit it yourself, how can you be wrong? Lu Hui gave Yeyu a fierce look. Deputy head, I'm asking to take a look at the outing registration record that night. Yeyu knew that Lu Hui would definitely not be willing to bring over the outing registration record, so it would save time to tell someone who could do it directly. After being silent for a while, the deputy head of the regiment turned to the guard behind him and said, go to Captain Liu's office and get the recruit's outing register. I'll get it myself. Lu Hui stood up abruptly, and then strode out. Ye Chen looked at Lu Hui who strode out, and his nervous palms were already sweating. Several leaders and several teachers saw Yeyu standing there, but could not see any emotion on his face. Thinking of the loud accusations and insults that he faced Lu Hui just now, he was neither impatient, angry, nor guilty, and his face did not change in the slightest ugly, but it was rare for him to be so calm at such a young age. In their hearts, they couldn't help but look at Yeyu Jiao again. Lu Hui brought the register of recruits going out, opened it and put it in front of the deputy commander. The deputy head only glanced at it, then frowned immediately, then looked up at Lu Hui. Lu Hui's eyes dodged a little, but she still stood up straight and pretended to be calm. Excuse me, can I take a look? Yeyu asked. It does have your name on it. The deputy head pushed the roster out. Yeyu walked over to pick up the roster, glanced at it and said, so that night, I was the only recruit with Ye Chen who went out, but... When Ye Chen heard Yeyu say his name, his heart jumped, and he became even more nervous. Yeyu deliberately paused, then looked at Lu Hui with a puzzled look, and said, but the ink marks of my name seem to be different from the ink marks of Ye Chen's name? How come the ink marks of my name look like haven't it been dry yet? It's been a few days. Why don't you call the gate guard who was on duty that day and ask? After Yeyu finished speaking, he put the roster back on the table. The leaders and teachers who were seated immediately understood what was going on, while the standing recruits, whose minds were turning fast, had already understood, but their minds were turning slowly, and they were still in the fog. Okay. The deputy head closed the registration roster forcefully, and said solemnly, this is the end of the matter, no matter who it is in the future, it is not allowed to discuss and talk about this matter. Leader Lu, for you insulting the team members, I hope you can make a profound self-examination, and then write a letter of self-examination and send it to me. Yes. Lu Hui clenched her fists and replied in a low voice. She now regrets not being able to control her emotions just now. Because she was too excited, she completely forgot that the original owner, Yu, did not apply for going out that night. In fact, if you really want to investigate this matter, it is very easy to find out. It is because the original owner Yu took the initiative to admit that he met Du Hao and agreed with Du Hao, and because it was not a big deal, he did not check below. If the original owner, Yu, did not admit it at the time, the people from the investigation office would immediately go to Lu Hui to ask for a register of recruits going out, or directly ask the guard at the door, and the truth would be revealed that night. But if the truth is announced now, things will really escalate, and once things escalate, it will really have a very bad impact on the reputation of the art troupe. The deputy head looked at Yu and saw that he was not angry or wronged. He thought that he should understand the reason for what he did. Although he was angry with him, he was also one of the leaders who made things serious, but he also admired him. Even if he is wronged, he can not only prove his innocence, but also bear the whole situation. Yu is only forbearance temporarily, he has the personality of vengeance, how could he let this matter go? He was still waiting for a more suitable time to expose Du Hao's relationship with Ye Chen, so that everyone would know the truth, and at the same time, he could also see exactly what kind of person Du Hao was. After all the recruits were assessed, the leaders left one after another. This time, because the regiment leader went to a meeting, they didn't come to assess the recruits. When he comes back, the deputy head will definitely report today's affairs to him. As for whether Yu can participate in the performance in a month's time, it will be discussed after the head of the group returns. After the recruits left one after another, Yu walked up to Lu Hui, looked at her and said, Leader Lu, I have never offended you or hurt anyone before, you don't like me, you even hate me, it's all your own business, I can't interfere with your emotions and your opinion of me. But you target me and suppress me everywhere, it won't do you any good, so I hope you can ignore my existence in the future, this will be good for you all, good to me. Lu Hui didn't answer Yu, just glared at him fiercely, then turned and left. Ji Wen walked to Yu's side, looked at Lu Hui's back and asked in a low voice, you haven't done anything, why does she hate you and target you so much? People pay attention to a relationship between people. Some people like it when they meet for the first time, and some people hate it when they meet for the first time. For her, I must be the one who hates it when I see it. People. In the plots Yu watched, Lu Hui hated the original owner Yu from the beginning to the end. When the original owner Yu hadn't done anything bad, he would target and suppress him everywhere. Later it was even worse, the original owner Yu's personality became more and more distorted, and Lu Hui played a big role in it. 2 days later, Su Jingyuan asked Yu to bring the violin to meet him. Yu carried the violin case and came to the small practice room of the band to meet Su Jingyuan. Su Jingyuan asked Yula to return with a famous classical song. After Yula finished the song, he put the chain down. Su Jingyuan nodded in satisfaction. Your basic skills are very good, but the emotional expression in the tune is still somewhat lacking. You should practice more during this time, and then practice this piece specifically, and try to practice it to the best of your ability before the performance next month. Su Jingyuan instructed. Can I perform on stage next month? Yu asked. I'm fighting for you, and there is still a lot of hope. You have practiced this song carefully. After half a month, I will take you to see the head of the group. You can pull it in front of the head of the group. As long as you can, it's a little better than what you pulled today, and there's no problem. Thank you, Teacher Su, I will practice hard and I won't let you down. Su Jingyuan nodded and said, you don't have to be under too much pressure, practice steadily, and there are still many opportunities to perform in the future. Su Jingyuan's words were not to comfort Ye Yu. Although Ye Yu was a recruit, no one in the entire band except Su Jingyuan could play the violin better than Ye Yu's violin, and this was under the circumstance that Ye Yu deliberately concealed most of his strength. Su Jingyuan's best musical instrument is also the violin. Before, he was quite satisfied with the original master Ye Yu, but he felt that his style was not very emotional, but he was still very young after all, and there was still a lot of room for improvement. And Ye Yu's outstanding performance in the last assessment made him decide to take Ye Yu as the key training object, and the future principal violin is basically determined to be Ye Yu. In the following time, because of the large-scale performance a month later, the atmosphere gradually became tense. No matter whether there are literary and artistic soldiers selected to perform, because of this tense atmosphere, they kept practicing, and practicing, as if they were a little lazy. It's like being left behind by others. Dressed as a spare tire in a love essay 6.5 a month later, Su Jingyuan took Ye Yu to meet the head of the group, played a song in front of the head and returned. The head of the group was very satisfied and agreed with Su Jingyuan's proposal to let Ye Yu perform as the principal of Zyokan. Ye Yu himself was in a normal mood, but Su Jingyuan was much happier than him. Although the head of the regiment already knew that Ye Yu was taking the blame for others, he still instructed Su Jingyuan in private that since he decided to focus on training Ye Yu, he should not only guide and supervise his performance in performance, but also in terms of behavior and character. It is required that those who should be persuaded must be persuaded in a timely manner. If the persuasion does not make sense, then no matter how well he plays the violin, he will be allowed to leave as soon as the recruit period ends. When the day of the performance finally arrived, even a veteran who had already performed for an unknown number of performances couldn't help but be a little nervous in the face of such a big scene. The stage below was filled with soldiers, and the first row was full of senior officers and generals. In this scene, even the regiment commander was nervous, not to mention them. And those recruits who were unable to perform and could only do logistical work were extremely envious and hoped to experience the tension in person. The backstage was busy but not chaotic. All the literary and artistic soldiers who were about to take the stage were making various preparations in their own positions. Loss of voice. Why didn't you say it earlier? Because of a sore throat. The show is about to start, you tell me he lost his voice. Everyone looked at the place where the sound sounded, and it was the deputy head who was very angry and questioned the leader of the sound band. This is his first solo performance, and he doesn't want to lose this opportunity. He thought he would definitely survive, so he didn't tell the truth, thinking that he would just take some anti-inflammatory drugs. Recently, the amount of practice has been heavy, and everyone has been practicing for a day. A little dumb, I didn't care too much, who knew that he was too stressed and too nervous, he just asked him to open his voice, but he couldn't make a sound at all. What's the use of explaining this now? Find someone to replace him now. If you want someone to replace him, you can only change the track. I just came to the deputy head to discuss the matter of changing the track. Change the repertoire. The deputy head of the regiment said with wide eyes, you can change it if you say it. The performance table has already been delivered to the military leaders by the regiment leader. If you change the repertoire temporarily, it is not equivalent to telling the military directly. The leaders of the ministry, have we made mistakes in our work? And you don't know that every piece of this performance was decided after the head of the regiment discussed with the leaders of the military department, and they all have special meanings. Although we are a cultural and art troupe, when performing, we should be as strict as soldiers preparing for the battlefield. An imperfect performance is like making a mistake on the battlefield. No matter how hard you usually practice, the key do you know that if the timing is wrong, it will lead to a situation where the whole game is lost. But the concern in this dream requires a clear and clean high pitch. The voice of the age who can sing is not suitable, and the voice of the right age can't sing well, so what do you say? The leader of the vocal band was also sweating anxiously. Are there any recruits who can sing? Even if Guoning can't sing well, it's fine if you can pass it. Let's pass this level first. If there was, I wouldn't propose to change the track. The vocal band leader became more and more anxious. Ji Wen walked to Yayu's side with the water cup, and whispered to him, "Aren't you good at singing?" Who sings well?" The deputy group's ears suddenly became quite enlightened at this time. Ji Wen was heard so quietly, and immediately looked towards them. Ji Wen was immediately stunned. Although he did hear Yayu sing a few lines, he thought he sang very well, but he said this to Yayu in a joking mood. He didn't expect him to be so quiet. It was heard by the deputy commander. Ji Wen's body was stiff and slowly turned to look at Yayu, begging him for help with his eyes. That day, Guoning was rehearsing with the band members in the practice room. Ji Wen happened to pass by outside the practice room and heard Guoning singing about his dream. Ji Wen liked this song, but because of the difficulty, he couldn't sing it himself. He hummed in his heart and walked back to the dormitory. After returning to the dormitory, Ji Wen tried to sing a few lines, and suddenly forgot the words while singing, so he casually asked Yayu how to sing next. What he actually wanted to ask was what the lyrics were. Then Yayu sang directly and helped him connect. When he heard that Yayu could actually sing, and it sounded pretty good, he was stunned immediately, and then asked Yayu to sing a whole song for him to listen to. Yayu was thinking about other things at the time, and when he heard Ji Wen ask, he sang a few sentences for him casually. Ji Wen asked him to sing the whole thing, and then he came back to his senses, and then refused, saying that he could only say such a sentence. Ji Wen asked repeatedly, but Yayu didn't sing, and Ji Wen didn't bother anymore. Because the deputy group was in a hurry, he lectured the leader of the band in front of so many people, and they just watched the fun. Ji Wen said that sentence in a joking mood. He really didn't expect the deputy head to hear it. Looking at the deputy head who strode over here, Ji Wen stiffened and didn't know what to do. "You were talking just now? Who do you think can sing well?" The deputy head asked eagerly. "Yes, I said it, I. Ji Wen didn't know how to answer, because he didn't know if Yayu really only sang those 2 lines. If so, he said Yayu's name as he made Yayu embarrassed, but if he said that he was joking, he would definitely be scolded. When he was so nervous and anxious, he dared to make a joke. Isn't this a scolding? He tried hard to think of an excuse to sneak in, but he was so nervous that he couldn't turn his head. "What are you? You're talking." Seeing Ji Wen's hesitant expression, the deputy head became even more anxious. He was easily irritated when he was anxious. Seeing Ji Wen's body stiff and speechless, Yayu sighed in his heart, and then said to the deputy head, "He's talking about me. You can sing about the concern in your dreams." The deputy head immediately looked at Yayu. Yayu was silent for 2 seconds, then nodded and said, "I can sing, but I just don't know if I can meet the standard of performing on stage. Leader Gao, take him to the practice room and see if he can do it. If it's okay, let him play. If it doesn't work..." The deputy team leader gritted his teeth and said, "If it really doesn't work, then change the track and wait. The performance is over, let's go with the head of the regiment and explain it to the military leaders." Gao Xiongqi walked up to Yayu, looked him up and down quickly and said to him, "Come with me." Yayu followed team leader Gao out of the backstage and went to the nearest practice room. The deputy head took a deep breath. Seeing that everyone else was still stunned, he exclaimed loudly, "What are you doing? The performance is about to start, so prepare everything that needs to be prepared for me." They said that on stage for a minute, 10 years of hard work off stage, but no matter how hard you work off stage, as long as you go on stage and make a mistake, it's all wasted effort. The deputy head of the team loves to lecture when he is in a hurry. In order not to be targeted and lectured, everyone in the background is busy preparing again, and when they are ready, they will prepare again. In short, they must pretend to be busy. As soon as the deputy head left, they couldn't help but start discussions in 2s and 3s, Only Ji Wen looked outside anxiously, unable to help worry about Ye Yu. Do you think he really sings well, or do you want to take this opportunity to show off? Who knows, I haven't heard him sing before. I see, he just heard the words of the deputy head, as long as it's okay, and he wants to stand out. If he really sings well, why didn't he sing before? How can you say that there is such a person without self-knowledge? He is a person who wants to join the band. He even grabs the opportunity to play in the band. He belongs to the kind of person who is not very talented, but not small in ambition. That is, he is shameless and has no skin, and he doesn't care about losing face. Look at Ji Wen's urgency, he must be smashing his hands. Let's just wait and see the joke. The deputy head said that he was not allowed to discuss the previous matters, but he didn't say that anything related to him, Ye Yu, was not allowed to be discussed, right? Since he is willing to be embarrassed, don't blame us for despising him and discussing him. A person like him deserves to be in the art troupe? The most shameful thing in my life is the fact that I served as a soldier with him. I came here to create good memories, and now he has destroyed them all. Get angry if you think about it. Is there any way? We can only blame our bad luck, but we met him. Ye Chen listened to their discussions while stretching and warming up. His thoughts were a bit complicated. His instinctive reaction was that he didn't want Ye Yu to perform well, but he felt that if he wanted Ye Yu to make a fool of himself, then the idea seems to be a little bad. He traveled to this world, although he never thought he would be the protagonist of the whole world, but he didn't want someone around him to be better than him, at least in the range he was in. He wanted to be the best and the most popular person, otherwise, wouldn't it be a waste of time? Last time, Ye Yu showed evidence that he didn't go out. Someone already guessed that it was him who went out to meet Du Hao. If it weren't for the fact that the deputy head said that he was not allowed to discuss this matter, he would definitely be caught by some people. He made irresponsible remarks behind his back, but although no one dared to discuss it, he also felt some strange eyes during this time. Dressed as a spare tire in a Love SA7 team leader, Gao brought Ye Yu to the deputy head. Before he could speak, the deputy head asked eagerly, "How is it? Can he do it?" "There is no problem, just let him go. As long as he can play normally after taking the stage, there must be no problem," Leader Gao said excitedly. "Are you sure? He hasn't rehearsed with the band, can he cooperate?" The deputy head was a little worried and confirmed to him again. "He sings much better than Guo Yu, no problem, don't worry, I can guarantee it," Leader Gao assured again. "Okay, I'll make arrangements and let the band members cooperate with him as much as possible." After the deputy head finished speaking, he strode away. After the head of the group left, the leader looked at Ye Yu, and said in a gentle manner, "Don't be nervous when you come to the stage later, just follow the normal performance you just sang, and don't be stressed." "Okay." Ye Yu nodded, "Then I'll go backstage to prepare." Go, don't be nervous, don't be under pressure." Although team leader Gao told the deputy head that he could guarantee it, he was still somewhat worried. After all, this was Ye Yu's first time on stage. He had never rehearsed with the band, so it was impossible for him not to be nervous. Ye Yu returned to the backstage, everyone immediately stopped talking about him, and then they all observed his expression, but could not see anything from Ye Yu's calm face as always. "How is it?" Leader Gao said that. Ji Wen asked worriedly. "The high team leader and the deputy head asked me to prepare for the stage." Ye Yu opened the thermos cup and took a sip of water. "Really let you go?" Ji Wen said guiltily, "I'm really sorry. It's all my fault. I joke around regardless of the occasion and don't look at the atmosphere, and it hurts you." "It doesn't matter, isn't it just singing a song? I'm not worried, so you don't have to worry," Ye Yu said indifferently. "Also, since both the senior team leader and the deputy team leader agreed to let you on stage, there should be no problem." Ji Wen patted his chest, trying to make himself less nervous. The people around were eavesdropping on the conversation between the two of them. Isn't it just singing a song when they heard Yayu's words? Many people showed mocking smiles, and some even rolled their eyes, feeling that he was not only thick-skinned, but also arrogant. Before Yayu took the stage, there were still 5 or 6 shows to be performed in front of him. After each show, a group of people would leave and another group would come in from the backstage. When it was finally time for Yayu to play, the team leader, the deputy head, and Su Jingyuan, who had heard what had happened, all gathered around to appease him, telling him not to be nervous and to play normally. Seeing Yayu's treatment, many people couldn't help but feel jealous, so they hoped that he would make a fool of himself. Yayu walked from the aisle to the stage. The dance team just stepped off the stage. When Ye Chen passed by him, he stood still and looked at him and said, "Come on, don't make a mistake, there are many leaders watching, if you make a mistake, the commander and the others will be implicated." "Thank you for the reminder." Yayu glanced at him coldly, then continued walking. When Yayu came to the stage, the curtain was closed, and Zhao Yu was the cello accompaniment of the band. When he saw Yayu came to the stage, he gave him an encouraging look, and Yayu nodded slightly to him. After the deputy head made the announcement, the 2-story curtain slowly opened to both sides, and the band's prelude also sounded. The Concern in the Dream is a slightly adapted foreign song, which expresses the longing for a distant relative. The tune is very high, and a clear and clean voice is required to sing the artistic conception of the lyrics and music. The tenor cannot sing the ethereal feeling of the original singer. Yayu's voice just happens to be very clear and clean, able to sing an ethereal feeling. When his clear singing voice came out, it was like a clear spring in the deep mountain flowing into the hearts of the listeners. There was a clear feeling of washing people's hearts, which made people very comfortable and enjoyable to listen to. The treble and pitch are also quite stable. As the strongest sniper in the Special Operations team, Du Yao has much better eyesight than the average person, not to mention that he is sitting in the second row now and can clearly see Yayu's appearance, and even the look in Yayu's eyes. Can see. Yayu's singing, like a pair of gentle hands, entered his heart without any hindrance. He thought that all the powerful mind guards gave up resistance, and his heart, which was originally hard as stone, was also touched by those hands at this moment. And become soft. "I'm getting married." Du Yao looked at Yayu, but he said this to Lin Dong, who was sitting next to him. Lin Dong was enjoying Yayu's singing, and his heart was intoxicated. Du Yao's voice suddenly brought him back to reality, then turned to look at him and asked, "What did you just say?" Yayu's singing made the soldiers in the audience incomparably enjoy, and they felt that their souls were greatly comforted. His bass was friendly and soft, which made the lyrics profound and touching. The mood of, along with his singing one after another, is a wonderful feeling, intoxicating. Lin Dong, who was immersed in Yayu's singing, was forcibly pulled back to reality by Du Yu, but he had always been able to listen to Beifeng and pay attention to any movement, but he did not hear what Du Yao, who was sitting next to him, said. "What did you just say?" Lin Dong asked again. He had a premonition that what he didn't hear clearly was a sentence that would shock him. "I said, I'm getting married." At the same time as Du Yao spoke, his eyes did not move away from Yayu's face for a second. Even at such a distance, he could clearly see Yayu's smooth and fair face. Skin. Lin Dong's eyes widened immediately, his hunch was as accurate as ever. Du Yao's words really surprised him. He looked at Yayu in the stands and Du Yao next to him, swaying in his heart. Because he wanted to listen to this song seriously, but because of the tendency of curiosity, he wanted to ask Du Yao immediately. The entanglement and swaying made him immediately realize that he would definitely waste it. It's a rare moment of enjoyment. Lin Dong thought, if it wasn't Du Yao who interrupted him, after the performance, he would definitely beat him to vent his anger. But it was Du Yao who interrupted him. He didn't even dare to have the idea of venting his anger, because only himself would be beaten. Lin Dong could only sigh deeply in his heart, and then asked, "Captain, you don't even have a marriage partner, who are you marrying?" "The marriage partner is already there," Du Yao said with a certain tone. "Is there a marriage partner?" Lin Dong's eyes widened with envy. "Is it arranged at home?" "It's good, it's only been less than a week since I came back, and even the partner has been arranged, and we're just waiting to get married. Unlike us, I don't know if I have to wait until that day to have a partner. It wasn't arranged at home, it was my own." "It wasn't arranged at home?" Lin Dong was even more puzzled. "We've only been back for a few days? You haven't even returned home, where did you see it?" "The one I saw just now is the one who sang on the stage." Du Yao looked at Ye Yu with gentle eyes like lake water, and a happy smile on the corner of his mouth. Lin Dong suddenly turned his head to look at Ye Yu, then turned back to look at Du Yao and asked, "Do you know him?" "No, does he know you?" "No, do you know him?" "I don't know it yet, but I will know it soon." Du Yao's tone was very affirmative. "What if the family already has a partner?" Lin Dong asked. "If he already has a partner, I have a way to break them up, and he will definitely be mine." Du Yao's eyes quickly flashed a fierce and determined light. When the song was about to end, Ye Yu suddenly felt a chill. Although his singing was still stable, he had inexplicably goosebumps. Lin Dong couldn't help but wanted to hold his forehead, not because he felt that Du Yao was overconfident, but because he knew that Du Yao would not give up until he achieved his goals. His tricky and vicious methods are used on the enemy, and it can also be said that the soldiers are tricky, and being sympathetic to the enemy is cruel to one's own people. But if it was used to find someone, he could not help but feel some sympathy for Ye Yu. The perfect singing, the perfect ending, and the warm applause broke out from the stage. These soldiers, who were usually cold and hard like steel, all showed soft eyes at this moment, and the corners of their mouths unconsciously showed a little smile. Ye Yu saluted with military salutes several times, but the applause did not stop for a long time, because Ye Yu still had to prepare for the next game. The deputy head had to let the curtain slowly close amidst the applause. The head of the regiment watched the performance with the military leaders. Although he was surprised at first, he didn't know why the singer became Ye Yu, but he was very satisfied with the effect that was much better than he expected. Especially after seeing the satisfied and appreciative smiles on the faces of the military leaders, he was also very pleased and proud in his heart. After all, the soldiers of the art troupe performed very well, and the head of the regiment had a bright face, just like if these officers had a particularly outstanding soldier, they would be very proud. After the curtain was closed, Ye Yu turned and walked backstage. The deputy head and the team leader were standing at the exit with smiles to greet him. "Your performance is better than what you did in practice just now." "Not bad, not bad." Leader Gao smiled and praised Ye Yu, while thinking about how to get people from Leader Su to the vocal band. "You are still so young, and you can already show such amazing talent. If you focus on practicing with your teacher, you will definitely have a bright future." The deputy regiment looked at Ye Yu with different eyes. The art troupe also has people entering and leaving every year. The deputy leader has been in the art troupe for so many years. He can still see who is a good seedling worth cultivating. Before, he thought that among the new recruits, Ye Chen had the most potential, but now it seems that he made the decision too early. Okay, he will be on stage next time, but you should let him take a breath. What are you doing here to stop him?" Leader Su, who came to look for someone, pushed away Leader Gao and pulled Ye Yu away. When Ye Yu returned to the backstage, he could rest for 2 or 3 minutes at most, and then he was about to take the stage again. Everyone else looked at him, some with complicated expressions, some with envious eyes, and more with complicated and jealous moods. Ye Chen sat in the corner, trying not to express his emotions. Dressed as a spare tire in a Love SA8, hurry up and take a break. As soon as Ji Wen saw Ye Yu coming over, he immediately stepped forward to hand him water, helped him pull the chair away for him to sit down, and then sat down on the chair next to him, saying excitedly, "Yours is really amazing, I knew you could sing well, and lied to me that you could only sing a few sentences." I said, "Why are you hiding it? One more ability means one more chance, and more skills if you don't press yourself. Others can't wait to show everything you know, but you have the real ability to hide it. Isn't this also unable to hide?" Yu put down the water glass and said, "I just thought, since I decided to join the band, I can concentrate on playing my violin. Some people think that I need to be in the limelight. Out, specifically to grab other people's performance opportunities. What's the matter with grabbing opportunities? Who doesn't want to fight for more opportunities here? If you don't have the ability, you want others to blame others for being in the limelight. That's why you are short and blame others for being too tall. You are greedy and blame others for not getting fat. In a word, no matter what it is right that others are wrong. In fact, it is just jealousy and unwilling to admit it. This kind of people will be like this in this life. Anyway, if they are not jealous, they are mediocre. It's sadder when people are jealous. Ji Wen's mouth was like a machine gun, crackling a lot, scolding all those who said bad things about Yu just now, and not having a single can make those people's faces flush red. Yu glanced at the big wall clock on the wall, and before team leader Su called him, he stood up and said, "I'm ready to go on stage first. Come on. I'm waiting for your triumph." Ji Wen stood up and said excitedly, "Don't be so exaggerated, I'm not going to the battlefield, but to perform for the soldiers who have just returned from the battlefield." Yu smiled, then took the violin and walked to the stage passage. When the curtain slowly opened again, the soldiers saw that Yu was standing in front of the band again, and this time he was holding a violin. They unconsciously felt a sense of anticipation. It's him again. He's quite versatile. I heard that in the art troupe, there is a lot of competition. He can perform twice in a row. He seems to be quite capable, and it can be seen that the art troupe attaches great importance to him. Lin Dong whispered. Said to Du Yao. The person I like is naturally not bad. Du Yao smiled when he saw Yu. In the last singing performance, Yu left an impression on the soldiers with an elegant and refined attitude. His singing was also ethereal and melodious, and he didn't feel like a person in the mortal world, nor like a singing voice that can be found in the mortal world. All the most beautiful adjectives in the world can describe him. So they thought that his violin style should also be this ethereal and melodious feeling. But the prelude is telling everyone that this is a magnificent song. Yu pulled the strings and pulled the momentum higher and higher in the song, and the momentum emanating from his whole person would not be suppressed by the momentum in his piano sound. The return of this song is originally an emotional song. It expresses the ecstasy of being able to return home after victory, and the feeling that I can't wait to return home. This tune reminded the soldiers below how excited they were when they knew they could finally return. When they disarmed and were finally able to look back in the direction of their hometown, they couldn't tell whether they were happy or sad. They fought bravely, they were not afraid of death, and even if the shells exploded right in front of their eyes, they could continue to charge. But the only thing I can't talk about is my hometown, which is the softest place in my heart and the least easy to touch. Yu is standing on the stage at this moment. In the eyes of the soldiers, he puts the Buddha statue as a soldier fighting. The picture in front of him gradually overlaps with the picture in their memory. It kept appearing in front of my eyes. After the climax, the tune slowly eased down. After the joy and excitement, there was a touch of sadness. Only when I returned home would I feel how tired I was. They are the only ones who can understand the feeling of being close to the nostalgia. Yu's performance was over, but there was no immediate applause like the previous performance. It was very quiet below, very quiet. Then the soldiers stood up one by one, and they gave a neat salute. They are not salute to Yu, but to the hometown that welcomes them back. The mood of the military leaders is also excited and sad. Who doesn't feel sorry for their soldiers? Those who have finally returned are distressed, and those who will never come back, they are even more distressed. After the curtain was closed, Yu turned around and stepped down. The deputy head of the team, Leader Su and Leader Gao, all looked at him with moist eyes. Deputy head, Teacher Su, Teacher Gao. Yu stood still and greeted them. The deputy head opened his mouth, but didn't say those words of praise and encouragement. Because it seemed redundant, he just nodded and said, "It's hard for you, go and rest." Yes. Yu stood up and gave a military salute before walking into the passage. Old Su, Leader Gao looked at Leader Su hesitantly. "Shut up." Leader Su knew what he was going to say, and immediately turned his face up. "I meant to say." Team leader wanted to explain. "Don't even think about it." Leader Su interrupted him again, then turned around and left, not wanting to hear him continue. "Hey, this person," Leader Gao looked at Leader Su's back, and looked at the deputy head with a grieved expression on his face. "Deputy head, look at his attitude. Forget it, we've worked together for so many years, so it's not like you don't know his temper. No matter what, just wait a few days and then talk about it. As long as the performance can end perfectly, the deputy head will be in a good mood, and he will be in a good mood. Well, people are much kinder, and can be a peacemaker." The deputy head knew what he wanted to say. Yu's talent in singing was so high, and the team leader would not easily give up winning him to the vocal band. After the performance of the last chorus, the performance ended perfectly, and all the soldiers and officers and military leaders in the audience stood up and applauded. The leaders of the military department expressed their high praise to the head of the cultural and art troupe. Although the head of Wu was happy and proud, he still said very modestly that they still have many shortcomings, and they will work harder in the future to strive for the fighters were able to enjoy better performances. The deputy head of the group is in the background, and he is also affirming and praising those who participated in the performance and the field work today. Everyone has worked hard this month, but today's performance was able to end so perfectly, not only because of your hard work this month, but also because of your usual hard work. I hope you will continue to maintain the present in the future. I am motivated and strive for greater progress. The key thing to praise today is that the band and the vocal music are paired together perfectly. Of course, the dance team is also very good, and their performance is also very good. In the future, everyone must continue to show the spirit of unity and fraternity. To believe in the power of the collective is the most powerful force. The deputy head praised everyone. Leader Gao and Leader Su were in a very good mood with smiles on their faces. Only Lu Hui couldn't smile because the words of the deputy head were in her ears. It has another meaning. She felt that the vice leader meant that the main credit for the band and the vocal group was today. Although their dance team did not hold back, they were not as outstanding as the other two teams, nor did they deserve as much credit. The best performer today was actually Yu, but because he was still a recruit, the deputy head of the regiment felt that if he praised him too much, firstly, he would be worried that he would be proud. Because of this phenomenon, the deputy head of the group, out of various considerations, attributed Yu's credit to the Harmony Band Collective. So no matter how angry Lu Hui was, she couldn't get Yu's credit. She could only swallow her breath, thinking that she would urge the members of the dance team to practice harder in the future, so that the members of the dance team could win glory for her. When it was time to eat dinner, the cafeteria made a lot of good dishes. To reward the hard training and preparations of all the people in the art troupe this month, this meal can also be regarded as a group dinner celebration. The head of the regiment and other leaders in the regiment would definitely come, but what they didn't expect was that the two military leaders of the combat regiment, along with 3 officers, came to console them as representatives. In the voice of the password, everyone stood up, and then gave a neat salute. "Hello sir. Sit and sit, we are just here to see, everyone don't need to be nervous, everyone has worked hard today, everyone will let go and eat, don't be restrained just because we are here." Su Zhengjiao first signaled everyone not to be nervous, and then continued to say words of encouragement and praise. Although these words, as long as they have been in the army for a few years, I don't know how many times I have heard them, but every time I listen to them as seriously as the first time. Ji Wen wanted to complain very much, but he gritted his teeth and held it back. Ye Yu, who was sitting opposite him, saw what he was thinking, and gave him a look to tell him not to talk nonsense again. What Ji Wen wanted to complain about was that this political and religious person he saw for the first time was accustomed to giving lectures to the combat legion. How dare they let go of their art and eat them? A total of 5 people came, but only 2 spoke. The one with the lowest rank was a lieutenant colonel. Although this person just stood there silently, he had a strong sense of presence, because this person was very eye-catching. His handsome face, the deep outline of his tall nose, and those deep black eyes are all admirable. When the 2 military leaders were talking, the people below who seemed to be listening seriously couldn't help but cast their gazes at the lieutenant colonel. In the army, it is not difficult to see officers, but it is the first time for everyone here to see such a young lieutenant colonel. They silently guess his age in their hearts, although he looks like 25 or 6. But given his rank, his actual age should be even higher, but definitely no more than 30 years old. A lieutenant colonel who is less than 30 years old, this is definitely a rare species. When everyone couldn't help but glance at the lieutenant colonel, yeah, you couldn't help but glance at him. He thought to himself, this man has the face of a male model star. If he in the original world, this person could attract a large number of fans just by his appearance. And he just stood there, quietly exuding charm, attracting everyone's attention, especially the female soldier and brother, who couldn't help but speed up his heartbeat. Du Yao tilted his head slightly, and immediately found the target in many pairs of eyes. Just in time to meet Ye Yu was stunned for a moment, and then silently looked away. Ye Yu was a little embarrassed when he peeked at others being discovered, but then he thought, so many people were watching, and he was not alone. No matter who he looked at, he would find that others were looking at him, so what was he doing? Embarrassing. Dressed as a spare tire in a Love SA9, the 2 military leaders took turns to finish speaking, and then sat at a table with the regiment leader to prepare for dinner. The deputy regiment leader suddenly stood up and called out, Ye Yu, come here. Ye Yu raised his head and saw that the deputy regiment was waving at him. Although he was reluctant to go there, he had to stand up and walk over there. He is a new recruit who just sang the dream of worrying and playing. His name is Ye Yu. Although he is still a recruit, his basic skills are very solid, and his usual practice is also very hard. Today is his first time to perform on stage. There was nothing wrong, and we were very pleased to be able to successfully complete the performance. The deputy head of the group introduced Dao Yayu to several officers and 2 military leaders present. Don't be humble for him. Although we don't know how to play musical instruments or vocal music, we still have a good level of appreciation. We can all hear it. This time your art troupe has found a treasure among the recruits. Let you call he came here because he wanted to praise him face to face. Our combat army will not rob you of people, what do you have to hide? Su Zhengjiao said with a smile. Su Zhengjiao, this is what you said, you won't come to rob people. Captain Wu immediately grasped the point in his words. Hey! I said old Wu, I haven't seen you for a few years. You are still so good at catching the faults in other people's words. What I said about robbing is not the same as what you said about robbing. Su Zhengjiao pointed in front of the head of Wu. The wine glass said, pour it on him quickly, I must punish him for a few drinks today. Ye Yu stood by and watched silently, thinking about when he would be able to go back to eat. Suddenly, he felt a gaze watching him. Ye Yu followed the feeling and saw that it was the lieutenant colonel who was looking at him just now. The eyes of the 2 met again, and Ye Yu conveyed to each other with his eyes, this time it was you who looked at me first, so I looked at you. Du Yao understood what Ye Yu was trying to convey. Although there was no expression on his face, he couldn't help but want to laugh. He felt that Ye was so cute and funny. This was the first time he saw Ye up close, and he felt that he would always remember this moment. Ye looked into Du Yao's eyes, but couldn't guess what he was thinking, which made him a little surprised. Although his superpowers do not include mind reading, when he looks into a person's eyes, he can guess what the other person is thinking based on the expression in the other person's eyes, micro-expressions and gestures, and all guesses are accurate. Rate is quite high. But now, he couldn't see what Du Yao was thinking at all. After Su Zhengjiao forcibly punished the head of Wu for 3 drinks, he turned his head again, looked at Ye and said, I can see that your head and deputy head attach great importance to you, so don't live up to their expectations and continue to work hard. And strive to become the pillar of the art troupe in the shortest possible time. Yes, I will continue and never fail to live up to the expectations of the leaders. Ye straightened his body and replied solemnly. Su Zhengjiao habitually wanted to pat Ye on the shoulder, and suddenly thought that Ye was not one of those rough men in their fighting army. This action was not very good for him, so he put down his hand and said, meeting 3-point love, in the future, I hope you can come to our 211 troop for more performances. This is not an order, it is to seek favor with you in advance. Yes. Ye thought to himself, he will definitely go to perform in various combat regiments in the future. This political and religious person looks very good, and today is a performance for their regiment, if it is under the circumstances of his own choice. It should not be wrong to choose their group. Let's go and eat, the head of the regiment said to Ye, then stood up and said to the others, today everyone is full, then go back to rest, and we will give you 2 days off tomorrow. Ye walked back to his seat in the envious eyes of everyone, and then sat down to eat. So many literary and artistic soldiers, most of them participated in the performance, but he was the only one who accepted the praise and was personally courted by the political and religious. Treatment is something that most literary and art soldiers dare not even think about. But today Ye did perform exceptionally well. Even if they were not reconciled, they would have nothing to say. Ye Chen held the chopsticks tightly, his stomach was very hungry, but after 2 bites, he felt he couldn't eat any more. He practiced the dance hard for a whole month, and finally looked forward to the performance. He thought that he would be the one who performed the most, and he would definitely be praised, but after the performance, he was just a foil to many, just one of them. Ye Chen tried very hard to control his emotions. He told himself not to be jealous. If he was jealous, he would lose more completely. As long as he worked harder, he would definitely be better than others. Must be able to do it through their own efforts. No matter how hard Ye Chen tried to control his mood, whether he was willing to admit it or not, he really felt jealous of Ye. There were 2 more days of vacation. After leaving the cafeteria, Ye called home and asked Ye Song to pick him up early tomorrow morning. Although Ye has already said that he will not live with the old master Ye again, the original owner's parents are still a little worried that he just said such a thing because of a momentary anger, and when the anger subsides, he will still live with the old master Ye. When they received Ye's call, they were naturally very happy, and they wished they would pick him up that night, so that he could stay at home for 1 more night. After returning home, Ye seriously relaxed and rested. In addition to being in a daze, he just chatted with Ye Jiande and his wife to get to know each other what the other party was doing this month. When Ye Jiande and his wife heard Ye said that he was praised by the leaders, they were very happy and proud, thinking that it would be nice if they could see such a picture with their own eyes. After the holiday, Ye returned to the art troupe. This time, after he walked into the gate of the art troupe, there were still many eyes looking at him, but the emotions in those eyes were very different from the last time he came. Different. After arriving at the dormitory, Ye distributed all the food he brought from home to Jiwen and Zhao Yu. Both Jiwen and Zhao Yu were not natives of this province, and they wanted to go home unless they had a long vacation, and the traffic in this area is also very inconvenient and wastes a lot of time on the road. In the past 2 days, I heard a piece of news that is very authentic. Ji Wen said to Ye Yu while eating the cut fruit in the lunchbox. What news? Ye Yu asked. I heard that the group will arrange for us to go on a blind date. Ji Wen whispered. We? Blind date? Ye Yu said with some surprise and doubts. Why do the group still worry about these things? Is it because we are worried that no one wants us? It's unlikely, right? Those who can join the art troupe, let alone other things, will definitely not be bad in appearance and talent, and most of them have good family conditions. Besides, with the name of passing through the art troupe, someone will definitely be rushing to get it when they return home. How could it be that we are worried that no one wants us? Ji Wen almost spit out the fruit in his mouth. The military camp is where most of the bachelors are concentrated. We arranged for us to go on a blind date, of course, to solve the marriage problems of those older officers. Recruits must also participate? Is it okay not to go? Ye Yu was not only not interested in blind dates, but was also quite disgusted. Moreover, although his real age is already 23 years old, the age of this body is only 19 years old. Even if people in this world are getting married relatively early, he still feels that it is too early for a blind date at the age of 19. I heard that as long as you are single, you don't have a partner or someone you are interested in, you must participate. If you don't go, you're admitting that you already have someone you like. Ji Wen said, it's not a big deal if you just go for a walk. Yes, when you say that there is no match, the leaders will not force you to choose one. Many people are very happy when they know the news, because they heard that this arrangement is all officers. So this time, the group blind date is not about character, but about ability. No wonder they are very happy. Ye Yu nodded clearly. I don't think the two are in conflict. Among capable people, isn't it the best of both worlds to choose someone with good character? Ji Wen shrugged and said. It sounds like you are also interested. Ye Yu looked at him and said. Since it was arranged by the group, let's go and have a look. Maybe you can meet someone who is suitable? Even if you don't have a match, you won't suffer, right? Ji Wen felt that it didn't matter if he went or not, it was mainly him too lazy to make excuses to shirk. When the head of the group gathered all the single and unmarried members and started to do ideological work, Ye Yu admired Ji Wen's ability to obtain information and felt that he was very suitable for intelligence work, because what he told Ye Yu was all right. The head of the group first talked about what marriage is a lifelong event. Only after solving the major events in life can you work hard and work hard with peace of mind. If you have to get married first and then start a career, then you can enter the key points. After talking about the key points, the regiment commander also mentioned it, saying that considering that the literary and art soldiers have high conditions, in order to avoid some embarrassing situations, this time the group blind date was arranged by officers with good conditions in all aspects. Opportunities like this don't come around every now and then, and you have to take advantage of them. In the end, the head of the group said that he would not force everyone to participate. If there is anyone who does not want to participate, just write a written explanation of the reason for not participating and give it to the team leader. After determining the number of people to participate, they can make arrangements. Hearing what the head of the regiment said, Ye Yu knew that he was definitely going to participate, because the leader of their recruits was Lu Hui. If he handed in a written statement that he did not want to participate, he would inevitably be satirized with a gun and a stick. Instead of facing Lu Hui's irony, he might as well go to a group blind date and go through the motions. At the end of the day's training, the soldiers rinsed off the sweat mixed with mud in the collective bathroom. Du Yao came out of the bathroom after taking a shower, wearing slippers and carrying a towel to the dormitory. Lin Dong, who came out behind, quickly followed him and asked, Captain, you have worked so hard to facilitate this group blind date, in case you what if he didn't go to the person he wanted to see? Whether he goes or not, it mainly depends on fate. I believe that there is enough fate between us to meet. Du Yao said calmly. After being silent for a while, Lin Dong said, Captain, I am really puzzled sometimes, why do you have the confidence that you will succeed no matter what you do? Don't you ever think that you might not succeed yourself? It's up to people to make things happen, and it's up to heaven to make things happen. I try my best to create a higher chance of success, and if I don't get it, I will do it again, until I succeed. I will not fail every time because of bad luck, but there will always be success. This is the source and basis of my confidence. Lin Dong really admired Du Yao in various senses, but he couldn't help but persuade him, Captain, if someone already has a partner, don't force it too much. After all, a twisted melon is not sweet. Du Yao just smiled and didn't answer him, but there was a deep meaning in his smile. He thought to himself, he would naturally not try to force the unsweetened melon. He would dig up the root of the melon he liked, plant it in his own land, and then nurture it carefully and water it carefully. This melon will one day change. Sweet. Dressed as a spare tire in a love SA-10 on the night of the blind date, Lu Hui brought the female soldiers and brothers of the dance team and the recruit team to gather under the dormitory building to count the number of people, and then the deputy regiment took them to the military club. Lu Hui took the roster and walked over to the recruits to confirm one by one. When she walked in front of Yayu, she stopped suddenly, looked at him and asked, "Are you going too? Can't I go?" Yayu knew that even if he decided to go, Lu Hui would find a way to ridicule him. "I completely meet the conditions stated by the head of the regiment. I am single and unmarried, and I don't have a partner or someone I like." "Why can't you go? No one you like? You can't eat what's in the bowl, so you want to see what's in the pot." Lu Hui said sarcastically, "I advise you, don't go to harm others, there will be no good results." Report to the deputy head. Yayu reported loudly when he saw the deputy head coming out of the building. Lu Hui's expression changed immediately because of his actions. She wanted to stop it, but the deputy head of the team had already come here. "What's the matter, Yayu? Is there any problem? Leader Lu told me not to harm others. She said that I would not have good results. I want to ask, is it too late for me to apply directly to you now?" Yayu said loudly. The deputy commander turned his head and stared at Lu Hui and said, "Mr. Lu, I think I made it very clear last time. In the army, no one can insult a soldier's personality for any reason. It seems that you didn't treat me at all. Take it to heart, the review was written in vain, right? Now you are not only insulting the soldier's personality, but also directly cursing. With such behavior and thinking, what qualifications do you have to educate and manage recruits? It seems that I am going to join the regiment. Let's talk about it, remove your position as the recruit leader, and give you a warning to deal with it once." "No, deputy head, listen to my explanation." Lu Hui's face changed greatly, and she explained in a flustered tone, "What I said just now is not what he said at all. I asked him to think about it before joining the group. Blind date, don't regret it again. Report to the deputy head." Ji Wen, who was standing beside Yayu, said loudly, "What Yayu just said was the original words of Leader Lu, and we all heard it clearly." "No, the deputy head, Lu Hui wanted to continue to explain, but was interrupted by the deputy head. "Okay. You don't have to follow today. You go back and reflect behind closed doors. If you have anything, save it for tomorrow to explain it to the head of the regiment. Come and go together, after all, it's all female soldiers and brothers who go on blind dates, and it would be better to have a female teacher follow." Lu Hui stared at Yayu angrily for a while, then turned around and walked back into the building. "Do you think she is sick? You have no grievances with her, and you have never offended her. Why does she always target you like this?" Ji Wen really couldn't figure it out. "In the end, what is the meaning? It's just that I'm not pleasing to the eye." Yayu said. The 2 iron buses of the art troupe drove out. Yayu felt very fresh, because he had only seen this kind of iron bus in TV and movies, and in the world he was in, buses were much more advanced and better looking than this one. After getting on the bus, the faces of these literary and art soldiers were all nervous and shy, especially the recruits. After all, the recruits are only about 19 years old, and they are all tender like new shoots, but they don't really care about the officers who have a blind date with them, and they are likely to be much older than them. The military club was established after the fall of the Qing dynasty. It is a place to relax for those soldiers who can't go home on vacation. Here, you can watch movies, drink coffee and tea, and play cards. Take a gamble. Around the military club, there are also some shops, restaurants, and hotels. Just like a small town, it is convenient for the family members of the military who come to visit relatives to live here. After getting off the bus, the deputy head of the group issued a number plate to each of them, so that even if they didn't know the name, they could just remember the number. Yayu looked at the number plate in his hand and couldn't help but feel amused, and said to Ji Wen, "Whoever came up with this method is really talented." Ji Wen also looked at the number plate and smiled. He heard the word talent that Yayu said, and it was a little funny. This method was thought up by the leaders who organized this collective blind date. They decided that if the blind date method went well this time, they could be held more in the future, and the blind date objects would not only be with medical soldiers, but also other departments. This may solve the problem of soldiers getting married to a great extent. Yayu just turned around, just happened to see Ye Chen, and then looked at him. Ye Chen subconsciously avoided Yayu's eyes, because Yayu's eyes made him feel a little guilty. After entering the hall of the military club, everyone took their number cards and found a table to sit down. Yayu chose the most inconspicuous table in the corner, and Ji Wen chose the one in front of him. Zhao Yu did not come to participate in this group blind date, because his family was engaged to him when he was very young. Yayu put his number plate on the table. There are also papers and pens on the table, which are specially used for literary and art soldiers. Because the number of officers is a bit large, he is worried that they can't remember who is who, and it will be embarrassing to be confused. The officers all volunteered to sign up and wanted to participate. They didn't need to do ideological work at all. Those who could join the art troupe were carefully selected. It was a good thing to marry a literary soldier as a wife. Of course they wanted to. Actively participated. Yayu felt like an interviewer and sat here unwillingly, waiting for an interview for his future partner, commonly known as a blind date. Before the blind date officially started, the deputy head said a few more words to calm everyone's nervousness. It was like seeing friends. If you can talk a few more words. If you can't talk, change to the next one. The door of the hall opened again, and countless officers walked in. The momentum looked a little scary, although before they came in, the leader had already instructed them to take away the murderous aura from them, be gentle on their faces, and don't be frightened. People. But immediately becoming gentle and making people happy is absolutely impossible, so after those officers rushed to sit down one by one, answering questions seriously was really the same as Yayu's interview. Yes, if it's a movie scene, it's bound to make people laugh. A tall figure enveloped Yayu. Just as Yayu was about to look up, the other party had already sat down opposite him. Yayu looked at the person opposite, and the first reaction in his heart was, "It's you again." "Yes, it's me again." Du Yao immediately saw Yayu's thoughts. The two sat and stared at each other for a while. Yayu thought that he couldn't see his inner thoughts last time, but this time, he saw his thoughts at a glance, and felt a little unwilling, so he stared at him seriously. But after watching for a while, Yayu could only take a deep breath and give up. "You're sitting here, it means that you're not married, you don't have a love interest, and you don't have someone you like, right?" Du Yao looked at Yayu seriously and confirmed to him personally. "That's right." Yayu replied, "I'm not married, I don't have a love interest, and I don't have someone I like. But I don't want to go on a blind date, and I don't want to rely on a blind date to find a future partner." "That's really it couldn't be better. Du Yao said with a smile. What do you mean? Ye Yu regretted immediately after asking. He didn't think that he would have a day when he couldn't understand the meaning of the other party's words, so he was even more unwilling. He couldn't help but glared at Du Yao, but I don't know how cute his stare is in Du Yao's heart. Du Yao stepped forward a little, looked at Ye Yu with a smile and said, it means that we believe that there is a destiny between us, so we meet again and again. Ye Yu watched him silent for a while, then picked up the pencil on the table and let himself immerse himself in the role of the interviewer, trying not to let the other party affect his emotions. What's your name? Ye Yu asked. Du Yao. Which Yao? Du Yao took the pencil in Ye Yu's hand, wrote his name on the paper, and returned the pen to Ye Yu. Ye Yu looked at the two words on the paper, and had a very inexplicable feeling in his heart. The name made him feel familiar, but he couldn't remember when he had heard or seen it before. What he could be sure of was, in the book he had read, there was no character named Du Yao. However, many of the things he knows so far are not mentioned in the book. Sometimes he even feels that this is not the so-called world in the book, but someone who has lived in this world, wrote down such a book. Age? Ye Yu retracted his mind and continued to ask. 26, 7 years older than you, but I think this is an age difference without any bad factors. How many people are there in the family? Family members are more complicated, but the important family members to me are only my grandfather, grandmother, parents, and other people who are not important to me. You don't need to know. How much is your income? Ye Yu tried her best to maintain a business-like interviewer attitude. My mother has always received my income for me, so I never know how much I can earn, but one thing is certain, my future partner will never be troubled by money matters. There is one thing I have to make clear to you. Ye Yu heard Du Yao's answer so earnestly, and felt compelled to remind him, I don't want to come on a blind date because I have absolutely no plans to get married, so, you know, let's just go through the process, you don't have to take it too seriously. You don't have to worry too much, relax a little, I will fully respect your wishes, you say let me not take it seriously, then I will not take it seriously, you want me to take it seriously, I will take it seriously. If you just want to pretend to have a blind date, I will cooperate with you, and if you want to ask any question, I will answer you truthfully. Why did you come to have a blind date? Although Ye Yu couldn't see what Du Yao was thinking, he could see that Du Yao's momentum and temperament were not cultivated by ordinary families. His family should have a strong background. In addition, he was already a lieutenant colonel when he was young, so he must have made a lot of military exploits, otherwise it would be difficult to convince the public in the army, such a person would actually come to a blind date. When I was watching your performance, I was attracted by your singing. Your singing was so beautiful that I couldn't get rid of it in my mind. When I knew that there was this blind date, I thought that there might be a chance to meet you. I met, so I took the initiative to apply. I said this, you don't need to feel pressured, these are my own feelings, you don't have to worry about it. No one would dislike someone's compliments from the heart, especially when the other person didn't look like someone who would easily praise others. Even Ye Yu couldn't help but feel very comfortable because of Du Yao's praise. So you came here specially, not for a blind date, but just to see me. People always yearn for good things, but I am very self-aware. Although I am tempted by you, I have never thought of getting you, or being with you. After all, I may go to the battlefield again at any time. And I will face death at any time. Every time I die on the battlefield, I will think, fortunately I don't have a lover yet, otherwise it would be too pitiful to leave him alone. So, I just want to keep you in the beauty in my heart, I don't want you to become a poor person. Ye Yu was stunned, Du Yao's words made his hand clench unconsciously, and he felt very angry in his heart. Du Yao looked at Ye Yu and continued, so at the beginning, when you said that you didn't really want to come on a blind date, I said that it was really good. Out of selfishness, I hope you don't choose a soldier as your future partner. Otherwise you will live in fear and most of your lonely time, and you deserve a happier life. If you say that, what have I become? You protect your family and the country with your life and blood. While I enjoy your protection, I deliberately don't choose to marry a soldier because I can't bear the worry and loneliness. In your eyes, I am such a person. Yu became more and more angry because of his words. I didn't say these words because I thought you were someone like you. I sincerely hope that you will be happy and have a happy life, so I said this. If I offend you, I'm sorry. But I hope if you can seriously consider my words, thank you for chatting with me for so long. After Du Yao finished speaking, he stood up, put on his military cap, and turned to leave. Yu looked at his back. Because of what he said, he felt inexplicably confused. Immediately after Du Yao left, someone came to sit down, and some people next to him who had been paying attention to this side waiting for an opportunity were annoyed because they didn't get their seats. Hello, I am. Sorry, I'm a little uncomfortable, please allow me to leave first. Yu got up and walked out.